Well, good afternoon, everyone. I refuse to pull out the gavel. I'll just raise my voice. Alrighty, here we go. I feel like I'm in a classroom of freshmen. They can't hear it yet. Thank you. As I used to say to my freshman classes, I'm enjoying your conversation, but this is not the time to have the conversation that you want. So with that, it's 5 o'clock on Monday, March 9th, 2026, and I am calling the regular Wausau School District Board of Education meeting order. Ms. Peck?
Sarah?
Roll call?
I'm sorry, Sarah? Here. Charles? Here. John? Here. Nick? Pat?
Yep.
Jennifer? Here. Corey?
Here.
Lance?
Here.
Jim?
Yes. Please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It is the mission of the Wausau School District to advance student learning, achievement, and success. Agenda item 5, Excellence in Action, EEA. Dr. Shannon Young, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Well, after 21 years of service to families and students in the Wausau School District, as you're aware, we're closing at the end of this school year. And so instead of focusing just on things that are currently happening now, I chose to take focus kind of over the whole 21 years of it, but paying attention to try to keep it within the 5 minutes. So want to respect the time.
There we go. Okay. I usually talk loud enough anyway, but we'll go ahead and we'll do the mic. So a little brief history for EEA. You know, as I was looking at this, if I recall years ago, this room looked a little bit different, and I think there was a back section back there. Does anybody else recall that? Or am I like one of the oldest? Julie? Like, you've been here. I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, you and I were talking about.
I do remember. Yes.
Do you remember it? Okay. So, hey, I have to turn to my peeps who might remember it. Now I just went over my 5 for sure. So our planning actually started in the back room that was actually part of this room years ago. 22 years ago, we came together as a team of district folks, community folks to address a problem. And the problem at that time was the fact that we had 7th and 8th graders that were aspiring to attend our alternative high school at NTC. And they were only in 7th and 8th grade. So we came together to say, hey, what can we do about this? And what came out of all of that planning, and we probably at times had 20 people around the table. What came out of that was New Horizons Charter School. It was originally designed to serve students in 7th and 8th grade. And after our first year, which we started out in a house up the hill from John Muir. It was a house that the district owned. We cooked our own meals. We were just really working on growing this way of doing things differently. And the first year was 7th and 8th grade. The second year was 7th, 8th, and 9th because parents came to the school board and said, hey, you need to do a high school. Like, my kid's finally finding something different for themselves, and we want you to create a high school. So we had a planning year. We were 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and then we split into middle school and high school. And for 3 years, the high school stayed in the house up the hill from John Muir. And the middle school was in the basement of Pilgrim Lutheran Church, which was adjacent to John Marshall Elementary. So we did our lunch over there. Sometimes at the end of the 3 years, we did lunch over there. Prior to that, we cooked. And we... if you've ever heard me refer to 3 years in the basement, that would be that time frame because, boy, those winters can get long. There are no windows, no sizable windows in the basement of Pilgrim Lutheran Church. So we've been in, multiple locations through the years and really just touching on our people. I would say throughout the 21 years, we've been so fortunate to just have such an amazing mix of folks, and it has been just absolutely wonderful to see how the team has morphed and changed through the years and how that morphing and changing always seemed to meet what we needed at the time. And that was just really incredible. Anytime we went into some sort of staffing kind of, oh, somebody's leaving, I had to remind myself that we always seemed to end up with who we needed on the team for some of the needs we had for students. Highlighted a couple milestones here. That first graduate in 2009, from 2011 to 2020, we averaged 90 students per year. We will, at the end of this year, have 196 grads. And yes, when I saw that number, I was like, 4 more. Like we would have been at 200. The largest class was 20 graduating students in 2023. Community has been absolutely pivotal to us. So we start each morning with a circle. We have lots of restorative conversations throughout pretty much every day. Anytime you have a bunch of teenagers in one space together with a bunch of adults, you're going to have things go wrong here and there, and that's where those restorative conversations come to play. And that goal really has always been to foster a school family. And I would say, as I look back over the years and I look at alumni from pretty much every single year, there are ones that's one of the things they continue to come back and say, is that we're definitely a school family. Community support has been absolutely amazing as well. We've partnered with so many different folks through the years. If you're not aware, the mural on Wow down along the riverfront was created and was designed by students from EEA, and they also did a lot of the painting. We did painting at family nights, and then, of course, community members always participate in some of that as well. I cannot say enough about this community as a whole and how throughout the years there just hasn't been hesitation for places to partner with us. High expectations. I think in a world where sometimes it feels like there's a lot of pressure to lower expectations, we've stuck to that, and our students have benefited from it. In the end, they figure out that they can do it, and they get to own the win. So I think so many times things are very well intentioned. You know, we have great intentions, and we might lower an expectation for a kid or give them a little too much extra help. And we certainly have learned over the years that when we do that, they don't get to own it the way that we want them to own it. And so it's definitely been one of the lessons that we've learned. I love data. But as I looked at different numbers and things, outside of sharing a few of the things that I shared with you to begin with, it's more qualitative than quantitative. It's the stories of students. And so when I think back over what some of the larger themes are, is students finally finding a place where they felt like they belonged, when maybe they had struggled with feeling like they fit in a traditional setting. Finally believing that they can learn, that there wasn't like some magical piece that they were missing that everybody else got that they didn't get, and you know, they finally realized that they could do it when they were really, you know, pushed to do it. And a lot of it was that smaller setting. Our other schools do an amazing job of trying a million different things to help kids succeed, but sometimes it was the benefit that we had of being in a smaller setting and being able to different kinds of relationships with the kids because of that. Recognizing that they could be a positive influence in their community was something that some of them learned as well, and realizing that, you know, school is a place of support. So lessons we learned as some of the adults was that really that piece on expectations. I can tell you every year that has resurfaced as a conversation among staff. Especially when our heartstrings really get pulled and you see somebody really struggling with something, and you want to swoop in and save them, and that's just not what's best for them. They still need to have those expectations and that extra support to believe that they can do it. We've learned if you give a human an easy out, they're often likely to take it. So you have to be a little careful about what you do with those. And that one of the most important things that I think we continue to strive for all the time was focusing on making sure that they were prepared for that life after high school. That's where rigor matters. That's where so many of these other things that we do matters, because that diploma is not an end point. That diploma is a starting point for them for the rest of their life. And so really trying to always continue to focus on that. And not always easy, of course, as I said, especially when you see students dealing with so many different challenges. We just would like to thank, we've had so much support throughout the years. So the support from the district, the support from the school board, and the support from the community as a whole, and most importantly from our families. Families chose to send their kids to something that was different, and that's not always an easy choice to make. And they believed in us and they trusted us, and that's meant so very much to us. So with lots of gratitude, we're just going to celebrate our way through the rest of this year, I think.
Any comments from the board? Dr. Young, thank you for all the work that you have done, and I agree with you 100%. Expect a lot, you get a lot. And students rise to the occasion. We sometimes forget that. So thank you for what you have done.
Thank you.
Yes. Agenda item 7. With that, I would like to recognize speakers and students who wish to have a public comment, and there is nobody there. So we will continue to move on. Next agenda item, let us move to that. Approve the consent agenda, appointments, additional staff, replacement staff, contract increases, separations, resignations, contract decreases, terminations, leaves of absence, retirements, regular session of February 9th, 2026, special session of February 23rd, 2026, and then closed session of February 24th, 2026. Payments of bills, budget status, and investment reports, CISA 9 shared services contract, donations to the district. And the donations are Homestead, an anonymous donor, Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin Robbins, El Mezcal, Festival Foods, Horseman Neighbors, Melanie Kennedy, Menards, Mint Cafe, Riolo Family, Sam's Pizza, Sconies, and American Online Giving Foundation. I'm seeking a motion to approve the consent agenda with great gratitude for donations to the district.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Agenda number 8, Committee of the Whole meeting. As the April 2022 referendum funded facility improvements continue to develop, the construction and budget updates will continue routinely be presented until projects are completed. The attached presentation was shared at the February Committee of the Whole meeting. Continuing on, next agenda, new business, iPads presentation. Information on switching one-to-one devices at the middle school from Chromebooks to iPads. And I will turn that over to our principals of the middle schools.
We'll have others join us as well. And,
Along with others of with the middle
Yes,
school.
We come with a hype team.
but if you look at slide 2, it's not all of those people. All right, good evening. Thanks for having us. Today we are going to discuss and present about iPads in the middle school. Basically how we got here, benefits of the iPad, and how that relates to what we believe in the middle school experience. The finances when looking at iPads instead of Chromebooks, and then also present some teacher survey results. So you'll see on slide 2, yes, a lot of people part of our planning team. Some of us will be part of the presentation tonight. So I'll turn it over to Mrs. Rogers for slide 3.
All right, you might be asking why did we come to iPads? And it actually came from teachers themselves. Engaging in that conversation of why not bringing iPads to the middle school. So what they were really looking for was that engagement piece of things. So engaging students more in their learning in a different way than maybe like a Chromebook would engage a student. They were also looking for that collaboration that is often difficult with a Chromebook, and then ways to give feedback. And I wouldn't just say student feedback, but even feedback with coaching with teachers as well, able to use that iPad for that feedback. And then just some added benefits that we really looked at too with some of the security, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, and then the breakages that we were having with the Chromebooks themselves. In this video, this is a Mir student who's doing some coding with the iPad and a robot, so that was one of the ways we wanted to just highlight some of the things that they already are doing. We have a set of iPads within our library, so students are already doing some of these things, and I would say this is just an example of how that engagement looks. So when we think of middle school, we often talk about kind of that middle school experience. So you'll see those words up there like integrating and cultivating and fostering, and those are some of the words that we use for when we have students transition up to middle school. Those are the things that we want them to be able to experience when they're in middle school, and the iPad really fits well for that because it allows them to build on some of those, the feedback part of things, the collaboration with each other. We just actually had 8th graders in our ELA class do a video where they were able to collaborate with each other. They did it on Rock Band, which is a app on the iPad, and they were able to do this video together to, well, some of them were promoting the use of Smuckers as the best sandwich, but they were able to, again, work across the building, across, like over the weekend, so that, again, they were able to do some of those, like, engagement pieces in a more meaningful way for them, and developmentally for a middle schooler as well.
All right, slide 5, who doesn't love a good Venn diagram? So on the right side, we looked at that middle school experience. What do we believe a middle school experience should be about? That engagement, the student choice, multiple ways of learning. And then we paired that with the left side, the operational foundation of what an iPad, some of those things that it can do for us. And we're going to dive more into those with our tech team in a bit. But you put those things together, and that's what we believe is truly a really awesome middle school experience for our students. All right, about that experience.
I do also love a good Venn diagram. As part of the process, we looked at kind of a direct comparison between Chromebook and iPad and the tools on the devices. And we're not going to go into every single feature on this slide, but kind of as an overview, we broke them down into 3 categories. So organization, teaching workflows, creation and learning showcase options, and then universal access and accessibility. And as far as workflows go, the Chromebook is reliable for typing and searching, but the iPad works a little bit more as an instructional engine of sorts. The last slide, a couple slides ago, we talk about the passive versus active learning, and in our department, we're always talking about the active learning with students versus that passive consumption. And with an iPad, there really are so many tools that allow students to kind of be creators of their own learning. The touch screen allows them to note take differently, annotate over things, document their thinking process in different ways. As far as creation and showcasing, I mean, you can see that the iPad's got a whole lot of yeses, and the Chromebook doesn't have exactly that same ability when it comes to creativity. iPad uses multimodal learning by giving students options to engage with and choices of ways to express their learning, whether it's through a traditional typed paper, whether it's a podcast, a video, or some type of multimedia. This flexibility that middle schoolers, teachers are really looking for encourages creativity and empowers our learners to take ownership of how they demonstrate mastery of things. Universal access and accessibility is probably the most critical and impactful category. On an iPad, all of those tools are built in versus some type of add-on with an extension or a third-party website. These tools allow students, all students, to have the ability to scan a paper handout that they get and be able to type their answers in versus handwrite. And that might be an option that many students need and choose to instantly be able to have something read aloud to them, and even some advanced voice control and many other features. Kind of gives students that agency to engage with content independently and use those tools that are necessary for their own success. So ultimately, The iPad kind of brings more depth, and the possibilities and opportunities that teachers provide can help and have students communicating their learning in different ways. We're not kind of just changing from one device to another. It's the idea of kind of expanding what's possible in the middle school classrooms.
So thinking about kind of yes-anding stuff, thinking about organization, communication, creation, and that accessibility component, we're pretty excited about the possibilities that the iPad brings to us. Now, thinking about this ecosystem, the iPad ecosystem is really built on applications that interact with each other. Through that learning environment or ecosystem, we gain all of those new opportunities, as Steph was mentioning, within that digital workflow. So those integrated tools that you're seeing on the right side of your screen leverage additional features like markup, instant translation, and voice memos. And all of those features can be brought into that existing ecosystem within iPad to really showcase that learning. Now, in addition, one key advantage of these is that kind of professional grade features and tools like Pages, Keynote, Numbers, GarageBand, and iMovie. Those are all available at no additional cost, and they're fully compatible with Google and Microsoft ecosystems as well. And now, as we mentioned earlier, our digital ecosystem will continue to be maintained. So when we think about the Google access that our students have had access to and our teachers have had access to, we'll continue to have that full access and still be able to build upon the opportunities for our students when we think about creation and engagement and accessibility. In addition to that, just as a side note, on iPad, students are able to engage with the Google features on a full desktop version on the iPad browser, or we can work with our students in a more condensed version of those Google's apps for education as well.
So now for the finance part. This has really evolved over the start of the project to now, even from the beginning of the year. One of the prime focuses that school districts, I think, go to Chromebooks is for costs. They're usually a lower entry, but we're seeing that change in the last 6 weeks. AI and now with what's going on in Iran have really had prices escalate 40%. When we started, we were looking at about $241 for a Chromebook versus $324 for an iPad. I locked in the $304 price for Chromebooks for high schools for next year, so that's what I used as the price. But right after that, it's now up to about $324. We have the contract for iPads at $324. It's locked in for a couple more days, so we have that opportunity. If you're taking a look at other cost comparisons, the one thing that really comes in the key is at the end of life. With end of life, we can sell our old iPads like we've done in the past, and we've gotten a relatively good price for them. Right now, the expectation would be, in about 3 to 4 years, $145 per device. For a Chromebook, there is no buyback. The value is zero. So by doing that, we actually lower the cost using an iPad versus a Chromebook. And can we go to the next one? So in essence, we're looking at saving $80 a device, which over the 1,500 devices that we would need in order to switch over to the middle school, it would save us about $121,000. And like I mentioned, the main thing that we're doing here is that we're paying things up front, where a Chromebook, we would do year over year buying for 6th grade and then again at 10th grade. Now we're saying we're buying it all up front. They're good for 3 to 4 years, and then buying it in the future with that payback money. So that's really the difference, and how we can take advantage of that is by using the referendum money from 2022 that you mentioned, or was mentioned last time when the board met, that there's funding for this, and that the total cost would be $610,065. One other added note to that, with the cases. We didn't go through Apple for the cases because we found a cheaper way to do that. So we saved about $10 a case by going with a different vendor. So that's an additional $15,000 in savings.
So I said this before, this was really driven by teachers. So not only did we hear from teachers initially, but we thought it was important to also survey our staff at both middle schools. So you can see that we had 122 staff take the survey. And the three big takeaways, again, are that engagement, ready to grow, and then that commitment to professional learning. And Dr. Phelps will go over the survey and more.
All right, so we just took out 3 of the survey questions that we'll share with you and the results of those. It's also important to note that this survey was given back in the fall. So the first one, supporting the shift from Chromebooks to iPads. At that point, about 66% of staff agreed or strongly agreed. About 8% did not agree, strongly disagreed, and that equals about 10 of our staff members. And then about 1 out of every 4 in that neutral area. The next one is ready, our staff ready to explore the iPad to enhance student learning. About 74% strongly agree. 5% disagree, or 6 staff members, and then that 21% neutral. And the last question we'll share is that understanding of if the dedication for professional development, are we ready for that? And over 3 out of every 4 staff members agree that they're ready for this professional learning. 2 staff members disagreed, which is almost 2%, and then 22% stayed neutral. And before I did mention, we gave this back in fall. Since that time, since that survey, we believe that the percentages would be even more in favor of the iPad, as we've had multiple professional learning days with the iPad, things in our building, and then on those PD days, you'll see some of the pictures, including Officer Kuchenreiter in the upper right, and then some of our staff in some of those sessions. We also have a timeline that we have January, February, and then we're going to come back for some more professional development April, May, and into August before the next school year.
So you can see here, these were just some of the quotes that staff have said either prior to the PD that we had around iPads, but then also during the PD days that we had with some of the iPads. So staff in general are very excited to kind of get the ball rolling. They've really found some value, and I feel like, anecdotally talking to staff as well, like what iPads even used to do in the past, which maybe some staff remember, they can just do so much more, and they're really excited about some of those opportunities as well.
Well, we'll hold on a motion for a second here. Any comments from the board?
Just a couple quick questions, Jim. What percentage of courses or content in middle school are delivered through a Chromebook, or in this case would be an iPad at this point in time?
So I think the class, most students use their Chromebook within the class periods. I wouldn't say we'd necessarily have classes that would solely rely on the Chromebook for their coursework. So it's usually used to present presentations, things that are used on Canvas.
Yeah, 100% of our classes are on Canvas, so families, students can access the content that they use day by day. But I would say no content is all technology.
Okay.
If that answers.
I think so. Okay, thank you. And the other question I had was performance-wise. I know from firsthand experience a few years ago when working on Chromebooks that my kids had in high school, I wanted to throw it out the window because it was so damn slow. Is this better?
Tech group?
Sorry, I had to laugh at that one. But go ahead.
Yeah, it was bad. Are these better?
I can speak to the fleet that we are working with right now, which is the most current iPad fleet that we've had, and it is a night and day difference in an experience from a student standpoint as far as efficiency, ability to multitask is so much
Just response time, screen time. I mean,
Exactly.
in
And the screen itself, from a visual standpoint, is a different type of display, so it's much crisper and just has a better quality of visual
Okay.
So
features.
one of the things that's really interesting about this is really timing, right? Depending on when you purchase something. And last year when we were going through the refresh and how we're doing it, one of the things that we said is that the old iPad fleet was limited with the amount of RAM that it had in the system, and it really kind of slowed things down, and it made it harder to do upgrades and those types of things. And when we were looking to purchase and refresh those, we were looking at 64 gig of RAM, which was a major upgrade, it was more than double. We got lucky in the timing. Because we waited a little bit, the Apple came out with the new iPad model, and we were able to get 128 gig of RAM. So it doubled the capacity again, even from the week before, if we had done it. So a lot of that's also timing. And so when you're looking at the difference between what might have been experienced years ago to what it is now, technology changes, and sometimes, it gets a little cheaper at times, and
Yeah.
other times not. So the experience would definitely be different.
okay.
And I would maybe add that we've seen a lot of like damage to Chromebooks, not purposeful necessarily, but like a student.
Mine was purposeful.
Threw it
What are
out
you
when
doing
threw it out the window.
I bought the insurance because it was.
I would say though, like we run into every year that there's so many screens broken on the Chromebook that we run out of screens.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, and it can be as simple as like a student puts a pen, where it folds and it cracks the whole screen. So we've been dealing a lot with like those parts of things with
Okay.
Chromebooks.
And the only other question I had is, were there any other alternatives looked at? I see Apple just has this Neo out now. I know it's at a little bit higher price point, but were there any other options considered aside from an iPad or Chromebook?
So there really wasn't any other option that we looked at that time. The Neo just came out and was
Yeah.
released in the last week. That might be something in the future that we look at to see
Okay.
what might work better in the situations, but for what.
And there's a possibility of that turnover that you're going to have with an Apple. They can buy back and all of that kind of stuff. That will save us money down the line. Yeah. Sarah, go ahead.
So that kind of walks into my first two questions. Since we are purchasing the case from an alternative vendor, does that change the buyback or does that change any kind of risk with that?
It doesn't, it's the same actual cover that we would have gotten from Apple, it's just,
But buying it from a different vendor doesn't affect any sort of warranty or,
no.
okay.
Because we're using the one that Apple requires in order to make sure that we're keeping it the best that we can.
Perfect.
It's just being purchased by a different vendor.
And then I'm assuming the case also has a lifespan?
Does, and it generally meets the lifespan of what we've done in the past. And those aren't necessarily part of the buyback. It's only the device that's part of that buyback.
And then how does this line up in terms of the whole kind of K-12 tech integration with this change?
Can you explain a little bit more what you're thinking?
So as a lifelong not Apple user, when one throws an apple in front of me that isn't one I can eat, it's a struggle. Now I'm dating myself here, much like Pat did a little bit earlier with the tech. Do students have exposure to both throughout, where by the time they're in graduation, they're comfortable with both methodologies? Does it now iPad K-12? Are there choices?
So we haven't talked about iPad K-12. At the high school, when we were talking about this, was like, we're very happy with our Chromebooks right now. We focused mainly on the middle school. That might change with the new Neo and whatever opportunities may be. But that's something that we look at later on. We do have other labs that use other devices, like Windows devices. So even when you think about what's going out to when they leave school, whatever it be like, you don't find many places using Chromebooks either. So it's giving them an opportunity to learn technology, but not being technology specific.
Right.
And that you.
So
learn
this
the
actually offers them a
adaptability.
chance to do both avenues throughout as opposed to maintaining one.
Teaches adaptability.
We hope.
We hope.
Can the board members?
Well, let me add to that, because we're going to continue if you want to question lines. The bottom line is that having a dual platform for our students to learn off of is something that most schools can't get to, most districts can't get to, but they'd love to get to that point. Teachers would love to have iPads in all of their classes because of the ability to work and have students work with them. So that's where the technology of the 21st century is coming in, and that's going to be the biggest plus. So I'm glad we're a dual platform school district now versus being just one and learning how to do a Mac or learning how to do a PC. And I must finalize my comment. Once you go Mac, you never go back. So let's go off of that. Yeah. Go ahead.
Ralph, are we going to have any issues with any of the teachers' current applications, anything else, portability, doing anything else, or is it pretty much seamless?
I will leave that to the integrators.
I will say from an ecosystem standpoint, the iPads really collaborate and work very nicely with
Okay.
all like major systems. So the Microsoft tools, Keynote, Pages, Numbers fit nicely with that. Our Canva tools that we've been leveraging in the district, we can kind of swap those as well. So I think that we'll see a nice intermingling throughout, and the tool that will be in our teachers' hands and students' hands will have that capability. I wanted to add on too, we do have our K-5 currently technology ICANN statements that we're really kind of looking at that growth throughout and what opportunities we can share with our students, so they do have that kind of well-rounded experience and exposure with the tools and different strategies just to support that learning throughout. But I think the device itself lends itself to be a desktop version of a lot of those tools and an app version, which is
Okay.
nice.
And so everybody understands what Ralph said about AI right now. The cost of memory has tripled just in the first week of February alone. And the race for AI has caused every storage manufacturer that makes the non-volatile memory and hard drives that we have in our phones and everything else to basically the entire production lines are sold to mid-2028 right now. So as Ralph is going to be facing with the servers that we have to run the district, costs, I know major components are going to quadruple for our company what we paid in February. So if you can get this deal, we'd better act quickly because I don't think it's going to be long before you see the price of what you currently have
Right.
doubling or tripling.
And to go along with that, we were looking at it for Chromebooks for next year, and normally we would wait a little bit longer for Chromebooks for next year. Having the ability and some of the flexibility I had with the budget from using the referendum last year, I was able to purchase the Chromebooks now. Not only is it a concern of the elevation in price, as Charles mentioned, we're finding it all around, but it's also availability because, as it's mentioned, from a price perspective, the other thing that's happening is those companies that are producing those components find that there's a higher profit margin for AI right now than there is for the consumable, right? So all their production's going to that and leaving it less for what we're seeing for like Chromebooks. So that's, not only are you looking from a price perspective, but an availability perspective as well.
Will they be able to deliver to meet your teachers' expectations of having them? For this upcoming school year, will
For
they
the iPads?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Any final questions?
Yeah, I have a question about our design budget line and district-wide. I assume that's where this is coming against their bid. We've spent 5.6 of the 8.6. Is that why we're at 3? Can we get clarification on that?
Yes. Get Elizabeth, are you able to?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. Can you say that again?
Our original budget was 8.614, and now our design budget line has 3 million, and our bid budget line has 3 million. Have we spent 5.6? Just so we understand where we're at.
No, we used a lot of that money to put into Marshall and Franklin for air conditioning.
Okay.
And we probably haven't even spent the 3 million yet.
So we should have the 3 million available besides our 1.7 in
No.
parentheses.
Some of the 3 is spent. It's probably $500,000 in the 3 that we have to catch up with. Some journal entries that are maybe coded wrong and some other costs that are trickling in but there's certainly enough for the 610 in the 1.7 below and the 3 together. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We're still
Okay.
working on the 3. Next time you see that number, it's gonna be not such a round number.
Okay.
We're gonna tune in on exactly what it is.
Okay, any final questions?
For the Chromebooks that we do have that we won't be using, can we use those as spares then, or, as things that you've got within your department?
So, interesting you would say that. What we're looking at doing is taking those devices, and a lot of times we use them for spare parts when we're doing a normal cycle. But we also keep some Chromebooks at the elementary, just in case there's a problem with like testing or something like that. But those fleets are getting old as well. So what we're gonna do is take the ones that we would normally have progressing, replace the ones that are out of date and need to be replaced anyway. And we'll have some extras as well as we're going through this process. And as they mentioned, the damage that comes through, we do a lot of the repairs in-house, and they'll be used as parts.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so I'm seeking a motion to approve the use of $610,065 from the 2022 referendum funds for the purchase of iPads for Horace Mann and John Muir Middle Schools.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 9B1 agenda item. At the February Committee of the Whole meeting, the committee was presented with a 5-year fiscal forecast model for the district. The projection model will continue to be applied during the next 3 months to aid in constructing the 2026-2027 budget reconciliation plan and ultimately the 2026-27 budget. It is critical to understand that the projections are the result of many variables that independently change periodically. As significant changes to the projections occur, administration will bring them to the attention of the board. Item 9B2, AGR Annual Report. At the February Committee of the Whole meeting, the committee was presented with mid-year AGR student outcome scores required by the DPI. In addition to sharing screening results, the report featured the work being done in each of the 3 AGR schools to strengthen organizational systems. The update demonstrated how these schools are evolving their practices to improve student achievement. That was just information from the last meeting. And agenda item 10, we're into the open forum. Board member professional growth and development report. Anyone have anything from the last meeting to this time that they'd like to report on? If not, I will continue to move on. Legislative liaison, Mr. Sillers, do you have anything from legislative liaison information?
Just was talking to Elizabeth and Bob before the meeting about special education funding. Again, plan to reach out to Representative Snyder and Senator Tomczyk tomorrow. Both the Assembly and Senate will have limited days on the floor now through the end of the year. I believe committee work continues on, but have some ideas and to see if anything additional would happen as a separate bill this year for special education.
Keep our fingers crossed. Keep our fingers crossed. Superintendent commentary, Mr. Bushman.
Just 2 quick comments with Dr. Young's comments about EEA as EEA sunsets into this year. Just wanted to thank her for all of her work that she's done through a career of helping students. Has done a great job as our staff had and has made an impact on the community, so I wanted to thank them for that. The second one is I want to send a congratulations out to John Tomsky. John is our Director of Secondary Education. This past week, John completed and defended his dissertation, so it is now Dr. John Tomsky instead of Mr. John Tomsky, so congratulations, John.
Well done, John. Well done. I'm seeking a motion to adjourn. Hold it. Time out. Before you so moved it, we'll reference the written board member liaison district activity report and ask that that be put in. There we go.
Now, giddy up. So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Obviously, I was exuberant.